Like I said, there aren't really any Belgian Blond Ales in my area, so I'm going to pair the one I have easy access to, Left Blonde. Yes, it's an AB InBev beer, and yes, AB InBev is the Disney Corporation of the beer world, bent on owning all of the beer. And yes, again, Lef is brewed by evil, soulless robots, not beautiful human monks. But it's really the only option I have here. There was that lawsuit a few years ago where the guy alleged that AB's marketing touted Lef as being brewed in an abbey in small quantities under the supervision of monks, when it is in fact brewed in an automated factory. Now, I don't know if Stella Artois, who brews Lef, actually has a fully automated brewery, but I like to think they do. I also like that this guy is going to sue a multinational corporation because he can't be bothered to do a little research on the beer he's drinking. Like, I'm all for truth in advertising. I think ads get away with way more bullshit than they should. But also, just because you can't be bothered to do a quick Google search before you buy a beer does not entitle you to a fat cash payout, sir. And this wasn't even the first time this happened to Anheuser-Busch. And unlike those other times, this one was thrown out. In 2015, AB was successfully sued because people were led to believe that Kirin Ichiban was brewed in Japan. AB bought Kirin in 1996 and the beer hasn't been brewed in Japan since then, so lawsuit. But the package says it is brewed under Kirin's strict supervision by Anheuser-Busch, Los Angeles, California, and Williamsburg, Pennsylvania. So I don't see how that one is on AB. Like, read the fucking label. Roughly the same thing happened with Beck's. The Beck's labels said shit like German quality and originated in Bremen, Germany, but the juice was being brewed right here in good old murder capital of the US, St. Louis, at the OG Anheuser-Busch brewery. That lawsuit ended up costing AB $20 million. Okay, St. Louis is not the murder capital of the US. It's actually number 3. The murder capital of the US is East St. Louis, way over there in Illinois. That's according to neighborhoodscout.com anyway. Now, if you can get some money out of these huge corporations, by all means, do so. But also, it's not their responsibility to educate you on all aspects of their products before you buy them. And, I guarantee you that information was readily available and easy to access online. Like, come the fuck on, people. Figure it out. Also, why does it matter if the beer is made in Japan, or Germany, or fucking St. Louis? Brewing the beer closer to you just means it will be fresher when you drink it. That's a good thing. It's not something to get all litigious over. Anyway, Left Blonde itself is a solid beer, regardless of who makes it. It's been around for years, like most Belgian beers. It's strong, but very smooth. It's easy to drink, but there's a depth to it that rewards taking your time with it. Which is a good segue into our movie for this episode's pairing, Belle de Jour, from 1967. One of Louis Buñuel's biggest hits, this surreal erotic film centers on Séverine, a bored housewife who begins working as a high-end prostitute on weekday afternoons when her husband is at work. The film's title is a play on the French term Belle de Nuit, which means Lady of the Night, which is, of course, another term for a prostitute. Séverine is referred to as the Belle de Jour by the brothel's madam, who recognizes in Séverine the need for a firm hand, as she puts it. Catherine Deneuve plays Séverine as icy and aloof, but with a rich fantasy life that she doesn't share with anyone, especially not her husband. In fact, at the start of the movie, Séverine and her husband are not having sex at all. Séverine's work at the brothel affords her the opportunity to indulge in her more fetishistic fantasies, which include bondage and domination. There isn't any explicit sex in the movie, though. Buñuel doesn't work on such a literal level. He's a surrealist, after all. In a 1999 write-up of the movie, Roger Ebert said that Belle de Jour is possibly the best-known erotic film of modern times, perhaps the best. That's because it understands eroticism from the inside out, understands how it exists not in sweat and skin, but in imagination. That's such a succinct way to sum up this movie. That's why Ebert was such a great film critic. He could get to the heart of a movie just like that. He could take something dense and complicated, full of symbolism and ideals, and distill it down into a couple of sentences that would perfectly sum up what the film was trying to say. Or if it was trying to say anything at all. He had such a great brain for movies. Even if you don't agree with what he's saying, you could never say he didn't know what he was talking about. It's a shame he's not around anymore. Anyway, like I said, the movie is very sexual, but not explicitly so. It has a lot of playfully suggestive language, lots of "you come here often, not as much as I'd like to" kind of stuff. Severin's turn-ons are denoted by strange auditory cues, like cats mewling or bells ringing. It's not overtly surreal, like a lot of early Benoit, but it's heavily symbolic. Benoit operates on a level of surrealism and dream logic that you don't see a lot of these days. David Lynch will veer into that realm, but he doesn't make that many movies these days either. Another thing I enjoy about Belle de Jour is how it never devolves into outright judgment. Benoit is cynical, as always, but he's not judging his characters for their behavior. He presents characters who are flawed and ridiculous, and who don't act in their best interest, but he rarely mocks them. He's more interested in mocking societal norms in his films, or religious institutions. I don't think he holds the same level of disdain for individuals. His cynicism is reserved more for the influences that make people behave poorly, not in the person behaving as such. And Catherine Deneuve is great as Severin. She's known for playing icy blondes, and that is thanks in large part to her work in this, Roman Polanski's Repulsion, and Francois Truffaut's Mississippi Mermaid. She's made a solid career out of it. Deneuve and Brigitte Bardot are the two big European blondes of their era, but I hear Brigitte Bardot is kind of a shitty person, whereas Deneuve seems to be pretty chill. So when I was choosing which one to focus on, I went with the Deneuve movie. And this is her most well-known role, I think. My first introduction to her was in The Hunger, where she plays a vampire who gets wrapped up in a love triangle with David Bowie and Susan Sarandon. That description makes that one sound a lot more exciting than it ends up being, but it's got its moments. But like I said, she's really great in Belle de Jour. She's super sexy, even when she's being all frigid with her husband, who, in her defense, is a real soy boy beta cuck, to quote It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I don't know if this movie works without her. She supposedly didn't get along with Louis Benoit when they were filming, but they went on to make at least one more movie together, so it couldn't have been that bad. So yeah, I think you should check out Belle de Jour. They don't make movies like this anymore. Actually, I take that back. There's a 2002 movie called Secretary with Maggie Gyllenhaal and James Spader that's got a lot of similarities. It's not a one-to-one comparison by any means, but it's a kind of spiritual descendant in the sense that it seems like it's going to be derivative and kind of misogynistic, but it turns out to be more playful and empowering than you think it's going to be. But Belle de Jour is very much a product of the 60s. It's a good introduction to Catherine Deneuve and Louis Benoit, who are both artists worth looking into. Benoit has some really crazy movies, and this one is a good way to dip your toe in without having your mind blown right off the bat. The same could be said for our beer today. Honestly, Belgian Pale Ale. It's an introductory beer, a way to get started down the path of Belgian beers that won't hit you with too much too fast. So give one a try. I think you'll enjoy it. And that's going to do it for this episode. I think we've covered all we need to cover. I want to thank you for joining me again. I'm having all kinds of fun doing these beer style breakdowns for you. If you are enjoying them, I wouldn't mind you letting me know. The show is at Beer Blockbuster on Facebook and Twitter. Email is beerblockbuster@gmail.com. If you want, you can also rate and review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. My name is Dustin Martin, and I'll be back soon with more beer info, movie pairings, movie lists, what have you. Until then, stay safe out there, and have a good night, nerds.